Close your eyes, dear traveler, and let the night carry you into stories long preserved by whispers of the ancients. Tonight we wander through sacred paths of mystery, where women once stood as keepers of light, guardians of the divine, and voices of the unseen world. The ancients spoke of goddesses, priestesses, and hidden mothers of wisdom. Their stories were sung in temples, carved into stone, and carried by desert winds across forgotten lands. Here, within the stillness of this hour, we shall drift into those tales, not to learn quickly, but to rest slowly, as if falling into the arms of eternity. Let each word become a candle in the dark, a gentle guide leading your soul toward peace. If these ancient whispers bring you calm, let your heart share a little light back. Perhaps leave a gentle comment of where you're listening from, or subscribe if you wish to return to these journeys again. Night falls softly. The air is cool and still. You are lying in the hush of quiet shadows, as if the world has exhaled and settled into peace. Far away, beyond the reach of ordinary memory, there lies a veil. Thin as mist, gentle as dawn. Behind this veil dwell the forgotten goddesses. Their names have faded from books and stones, but their presence drifts in the air like a fragrance, never fully gone. Imagine a desert plain. Its sand glows silver beneath the moon. The wind moves gently, shaping ripples like waves upon an endless ocean of earth. And there, standing at the edge of this vastness, is the veil itself. It shimmers like soft silk suspended in twilight, a curtain between what is remembered and what has slipped away. As you draw closer, the veil trembles, as though it senses your quiet breath. It does not resist you. It invites, and through its folds you glimpse the first of many forgotten women. Divine figures once loved, once prayed to, once held in sacred awe. Though their names may be faint, their essence still flows like water beneath stone. She comes first in shadow and light, a goddess whose image is carved only in fragments. She carries a jar, tilted slightly, and from it pours the endless river of stars. Once long ago, shepherds looked upward and whispered her name to the heavens. But that name has scattered into the wind, leaving only her gesture, eternal and kind, the pouring of light so that the sky may never be dark. She is the keeper of night's comfort, mother of the Milky Way, guardian of wandering souls. You watch her slowly vanish back into the veil. Her stars remain, still flowing, still glowing, and another figure drifts forward. This one wears a crown of reeds and river lilies. Her voice is soft water trickling over stone. She was once worshipped where rivers met, where crops leaned toward sunlight, and where hands prayed for fertile soil. Her temples are gone. Her name has been swallowed by centuries, but her spirit continues each spring when the first green shoots rise, when fields awaken after cold sleep. Farmers may not call her by name anymore, but they still bow to her presence with every seed they press into the earth. She bows her head as she returns behind the veil. The sound of running water lingers in the air. Then comes another. She moves like wind through tall grass, silent yet everywhere at once. Her face is hidden. Only her hands are seen, raised gently, palms open. Her gift was protection. Mothers once whispered prayers to her for their children at night. Sailors once carried charms shaped in her image as they braved the restless seas. Though her name has slipped away, the prayer itself remains. In every mother's quiet lullaby, in every traveler's whispered hope before a long road, the veil shimmers again, like a surface of water when moonlight touches it. More goddesses drift forward. One carries a small flame cupped between her hands. This flame never burns, never fades. She was once the keeper of hearths, the protector of warmth. Her fire was not for war, not for destruction. It was the gentle fire that keeps a home alive, the flame that welcomes travelers into shelter. Every candle that flickers in dark rooms still remembers her. Even if no one speaks her name, her warmth surrounds the world quietly, endlessly. Time slows. The veil becomes a river of memory, carrying more and more faces, each soft, each serene. A goddess with feathers of black and white, who guided spirits of birds. A goddess cloaked in storm cloud gray, who taught balance between rain and sun. A goddess whose body was the mountain itself, resting, unmoving, yet cradling villages at her feet. Their names are gone, but they are not gone. Their breath is the wind. Their footsteps are the waves. Their tears are the dew that waits on leaves at dawn. You drift deeper, letting their presence surround you. It feels like walking through a temple of echoes. Every step resounds with ancient prayers, whispered in countless tongues. Every shadow seems to bow, and though the walls of this temple are unseen, you feel its vastness stretching beyond the stars. The forgotten goddesses do not demand worship. They do not call for offerings. They only exist as gentle reminders, reminders that divinity has always worn many faces, that love, protection, and renewal have always been guided by soft hands as well as strong. Imagine now a vast library where no books remain, only dust, only fragments of parchment, only the scent of old ink. Here, too, the goddesses linger. They are the memory beyond memory. Even when stories fade, the feeling they carried lives on. It lives in the way fire comforts us. It lives in the way rivers continue their song. It lives in the way night sky opens wide and endless whenever we look upward. The veil itself begins to dissolve now. Not fully, not forever, but enough for you to step through it. You move like a quiet breath, entering a realm that feels both ancient and newborn. Everywhere the air shimmers with starlight dust. It clings to your skin like silk. And before you, gathered in a great circle, the forgotten goddesses stand. They are not many. They are countless. Their forms shift like dreams. One moment human, one moment elemental, one moment pure light. They do not speak with voices. They speak with presence. Each presence is a wave of calm. Each presence is a blessing of stillness. One approaches you. Her hair is woven with threads of gold, yet her face is shadow. She places her hand over your heart. No words pass between you, yet you feel her meaning. You are not alone. You have never been alone. Even in silence we watch. Even in forgetting we remain. Her hand drifts away, and her form dissolves back into the circle of light. Another goddess leans close. Her eyes are endless water. She does not touch you, but you feel coolness, as though standing beside a flowing stream. Her presence tells you all life returns. All rivers find the sea. All souls are carried gently without end. Her eyes close, and she too becomes starlight. One by one, the circle of goddesses surrounds you with blessings, not in words, not in doctrine, but in feelings as soft as wind through leaves, comfort, safety, belonging, peace. The veil is no longer a barrier. It is everywhere now, woven into the night itself. Every star is a fold of the veil. Every breeze is its whisper. Every dream is a path through it. The goddesses begin to fade, not in loss, but in returning to their eternal rest. Their circle melts into the sky. Their lights become the constellations, ancient and enduring. The river goddess becomes the hush of flowing streams. The flame goddess becomes the glow of lamps in windows. The nameless mother becomes the gentle hush that drifts children into dreams. They are forgotten by name, but they are remembered by spirit. They are remembered by every act of kindness, by every small comfort shared between souls, by every quiet moment when someone feels held by something greater, even if unseen. The desert plain returns. The moon still glows. The veil shimmers faintly on the horizon. But you no longer need to cross it, for it now lives within you, as soft memory, as silent blessing. You lie back upon the cool sand. The stars drift slowly above. Each star feels closer than before, like the gentle eyes of mothers watching from afar. You feel safe. You feel calm. The world itself seems to cradle you, like a child wrapped in night's soft blanket. Breathe slowly. The veil of forgotten goddesses has touched you. Their presence lingers, light as a sigh. No need to hold on tightly. They are always here, in silence, in mystery, in the folds of time. Now, close your inner eyes. Let the moon keep watch. Let the desert wind sing. Let the forgotten goddesses guide you deeper into rest. Their veil becomes your dream. Their silence becomes your peace. And so the chapter fades. The night remains. The stars return. The night is tender. The stars glimmer like soft jewels scattered across velvet skies. You are drifting once more, carried on the hush of unseen winds, into a world where silence is not empty but alive with whispers. Ahead beyond the dark slopes of mountains, a glow rises. It is not the glow of fire. It is not the glow of the sun. It is the pale silver light of the moon, washing the earth in calm. Here, on the high ridges of stone, stand the moon temples. Their towers are quiet. Their walls are kissed by centuries of starlight. They are built of dark rock, carved smooth by patient hands long ago. When the night comes, they awaken, not with noise, not with crowds, but with a gentle stillness that invites souls to pause. The priestesses dwell within these towers. They are keepers of silence, guardians of rhythm, voices of the lunar glow. Their faces are calm as water. Their eyes mirror the stars. They do not speak for themselves, but for the moon, its cycles, its mysteries, its endless gift of light. Imagine entering the temple gates. The stones beneath your feet are cool, bathed in silver. The air is filled with the faint scent of burning herbs, soft smoke curling upward toward the sky. Somewhere deeper within, a drum beats, slow and steady, like the quiet pulse of the night. The temple walls are carved with crescents, with circles, with flowing waves. Each design tells of the moon's phases, her birth in darkness, her growing light, her fullness, her fading back into shadow. Every curve reminds you that life itself follows this rhythm. Rise, bloom, rest, return. The priestesses walk these halls with bare feet, their white garments flowing like streams of moonlight around them. They carry bowls of water, polished mirrors, and threads of silver. Each item is sacred, for each reflects the moon in its own way. The bowls hold her face upon their surface. The mirrors catch her light in sudden glimmers. The silver threads are braided into circles, worn around the wrist as a promise of remembrance. High above, the temple roof is open. No ceiling blocks the sky. Only pillars rise, tall and graceful, framing the heavens. It is here, in this open chamber, that the priestesses gather each night when the moon climbs into her throne. They stand in a circle. Their heads are bowed. Their voices rise together in low, flowing chants. The sound does not rush. It moves gently, like a stream finding its path through stones. It fills the chamber, then rises beyond it, drifting into the night. The stars seem to listen. The mountains seem to listen. And you too feel drawn into their rhythm. The chants are not words of command. They are words of harmony. Some say they are older than language itself. Tones shaped to echo the pulse of the moon. Each note is a thread. Together they weave a cloth of sound, wrapping all who hear in comfort. It is a lullaby for the world, a prayer of silver woven into the fabric of night. When the priestesses sing, the moon feels closer. She seems to lean down, listening, answering. Her light grows softer, warmer, as though she too joins the song. The temple glows. The stone pillars shine faintly. The shadows sway like dancers at the edge of firelight. Once, long ago, travelers would climb the mountain paths to witness this. They carried offerings of milk, of honey, of pale flowers gathered at dusk. They left their gifts at the temple steps, then sat quietly, letting the chants wash over them. They believed that in this sacred space, the moon herself could hear their hearts more clearly. The priestesses were not seen as distant, but as bridges. Women whose souls had been tuned to the rhythm of the sky. They listened to the moon as one listens to a friend. They spoke not in commands, but in questions carried on the wind. And the answers came softly, in the sway of tides, in the glow of crops, in the peaceful rest of a child's sleep. Every gesture of the moon was read with care. Every shift of shadow was received with patience. The priestesses also kept watch over dreams. When villagers slept, they believed their spirits wandered beneath the moon's eye. If a dream was troubled, if shadows pressed too closely, the priestesses would offer prayers at the temple's open roof. They would light small lamps, their flames sheltered in clay bowls. Each flame was a star brought down to earth, guiding the dreamer back to calm paths. The dream rituals were simple yet profound. A vessel of water was placed in the moonlight, reflecting her face. Beside it, a flower was set, a white bloom that opened only at night. The water absorbed the moon's glow, and by morning it was believed to carry healing. Those who drank it felt their worries soften, their minds cleared, their sleep restored. Legends grew around the moon temples. Some said the priestesses could call the tides with a single song. Others believed they could sense when the moon would veil herself in shadow, long before an eclipse. But the priestesses never claimed power. They only claimed service. Their joy was not in command, but in devotion. They were like mirrors themselves, reflecting light, never holding it, always returning it to the world. Imagine now the sound of their chants, low and steady, like waves brushing sand. Close your eyes. Let the tones rise and fall around you. Feel the way each breath carries you closer to rest. It is as though the night itself is humming a lullaby, wrapping you in silver arms. A priestess steps forward. Her hair is long and dark, her robe shining faintly in the moonlight. She carries a bowl of water. She kneels, holding it high so that the moon's face rests within it. The water trembles, rippling with light. Slowly, she tilts it, pouring the reflection onto the stones below. The ground itself glows as though kissed by starlight. This act, repeated each night, reminds all who see it. The moon does not keep her beauty for herself. She pours it out, sharing it freely with earth, with sea, with sky, with every soul who looks upward. Another priestess raises her arms. In her hands she holds a silver thread, braided into a circle. She places it gently on the altar stone. The circle gleams, endless and whole. It speaks of the moon's cycle, of life's rhythm, of the truth that endings are never final, only passages into new beginnings. The chant swells softly. The air grows thick with peace. The moon shines brighter still, as though blessing the offering. For those who came seeking guidance, the priestesses offered no riddles, no commands. They only invited people to sit beneath the open sky. They would say, "Look, watch the moon. See how she changes yet remains." And in that simple vision, hearts found answers. The sick found comfort. The weary found rest. The lost found direction, because the moon teaches not with words, but with patience. She fades. She grows. She fades again, yet always returns. So too, the priestesses reminded, does hope. So too does peace. Tonight, as you drift deeper, imagine yourself within the moon temple. You are seated upon smooth stone. The air is cool upon your skin. The stars above are countless silent companions. The priestesses sing, their voices surrounding you, slow and tender. The moonlight rests gently upon your face, a hand of silver easing you into calm. You do not need to speak. You do not need to move. Simply rest in the glow. Feel the rhythm of the chants merge with the rhythm of your breath. Feel the way the silence between notes is as soothing as the sound itself. The moon temple is not far away. It is here within your rest whenever you close your eyes. It waits, eternal, a sanctuary of silver and stone. And the priestesses continue their service even when unseen, always singing, always tending, always guiding souls into peace. Now the night deepens. The chants grow softer. The flames of the lamps flicker lower. The priestesses bow their heads, their voices fading into silence. The moon lingers above, calm and watchful, her silver veil covering the earth in rest. You feel yourself drifting, carried like a small boat upon gentle waters. The temple fades, but its peace remains. The chants linger within you like echoes in the heart. The moon still shines above you, guiding steady, eternal. Rest now. The moon temples are within your dreams. Their silver towers rise in silence. Their priestesses stand in circles of light. Their songs are soft, endless, carried forever by the stars. Let yourself drift onward. The night holds you. The moon cradles you, and the priestesses sing you into sleep. The desert sleeps beneath its veil of stars. The Nile glimmers like a ribbon of liquid silver, winding endlessly through sand and palm. On its banks, the breath of night is soft, warm, and still. The reeds whisper in a rhythm older than kings, a lullaby written by the river itself. It is here upon these golden shores that the sacred daughters of Egypt once walked. Their lives, shaped by moon and sun, were offerings of beauty and devotion. They were not only women of the earth, but living reflections of the goddesses who guided their people. Their voices rose in chants at twilight, weaving prayers into the fabric of the night. Their footsteps echoed through courtyards of stone, their shadows stretching long against torchlight walls. Breathe gently now as the story unfolds. Feel the hush of the desert night. Let its ancient stillness carry you deeper into calm. The sacred daughters were chosen not by birth alone, but by the currents of fate. In the temple schools, young girls were taught the language of stars, the secrets of plants, the songs of healing. Their lessons were not of conquest or war, but of harmony and care. They learned to stir oils that calmed pain, to trace symbols that guarded against misfortune, to carry words that soothed the troubled heart. The people of Egypt saw in them the presence of Isis, the mother of protection, and Hathor, the lady of joy and song. When they danced, the air itself seemed to brighten. When they prayed, the Nile seemed to flow more gently, as though listening. At dawn, they walked the temple courts with jars of clear water, drawn from the river before sunrise. They poured it upon the ground, whispering blessings for harvest and life. At night they lifted their hands to the sky, calling to the moon to shine upon the world with mercy. In their every act, they carried devotion as lightly as a bird carries its wings. The temple walls, high and solemn, were softened by their presence. Candles burned in steady rows, their flames trembling like small golden flowers. Incense rose upward in quiet spirals, weaving patterns in the air. The daughters moved among the smoke, their white linen robes brushing against carved stone, their anklets chiming in slow rhythm. Their beauty was not of pride, but of stillness. They were mirrors of the divine. Their voices blended like water over smooth stones, a harmony that filled the long halls. When they sang, even the guards at the gates grew quiet, listening with lowered eyes. They tended the sacred statues, washing them with milk and honey, clothing them with fresh linen, adorning them with lotus flowers from the river. To them the gods were not distant. They were companions, ever present, dwelling in light, in fragrance, in every drop of flowing Nile. One daughter, younger than the rest, was said to have walked with the tenderness of Hathor herself. Her hair caught the glow of oil lamps, shining like strands of the desert sun. Her laughter was rare but gentle, and when it came, it softened every ear that heard it. In the courtyard, she fed doves with her own hands, and they circled her as though she were their home. To the elders, this was no surprise. Birds, they said, were messengers of the soul, drawn to those whose hearts were open to the sky. Another daughter carried the wisdom of Isis. Her eyes, deep as night water, seemed to hold the memory of ages. People came to her for counsel, bringing their fears and their fragile hopes. She listened without judgment. She spoke with words simple as rain, reminding them that even in sorrow, the Nile continues to flow, and with its flow, life always returns. The rhythm of their days was a soft circle, echoing the eternal cycles of the earth. Morning with its golden light, noon with its stillness, evening with its cool breath, night with its endless stars. They lived by these rhythms, never hurried, never restless. They were like the lotus flowers that opened to the sun and closed beneath the moon, trusting in the balance of time. Their lives were not their own, yet they were not burdened. They offered themselves to something greater, the harmony between earth and sky, river and desert, human and divine. Their devotion was a gentle stream, flowing without end, touching all who drew near. Sometimes, when the festivals came, the daughters walked through the city streets. They carried Sistra, the sacred rattles of Hathor, and their sound was like the shimmer of sunlight on water. Children followed, clapping their hands, while mothers watched from shaded doorways, their faces softened with hope. Even the weary laborers paused, laying down their tools to catch a glimpse of their passing. The daughters did not walk with pride, but with stillness. Their presence was enough. It reminded the people that the gods were not far away, but here, living among them, breathing in every palm tree, every grain of sand, every drop of Nile. In the evenings, the daughters gathered upon the temple roof. The city below faded into silence, while above them the stars unveiled their ancient patterns. They traced constellations with their fingers, whispering the names of gods written in the sky. Orion, the hunter; Sirius, the star of Isis; the great river of the heavens, mirroring the Nile below. They believed each star was a doorway, each light a soul. The heavens were not cold and distant, but alive, filled with memory and promise. As they gazed upward, they felt themselves part of this great weaving, not separate, but joined. Every breath they took was shared with the desert winds, with the reeds, with the stars themselves. On certain nights, when the moon was full, the daughters sang hymns by the riverbank. The moonlight touched the water, turning it into silver glass. The reflections shimmered beside the reeds, as though another world lay just beneath the surface. The hymns were soft, steady, like waves rolling against the shore. They sang of renewal, of journeys into light, of souls crossing from shadow into peace. Fishermen resting in their boats heard the songs and let their nets rest. Travelers upon the sand paused to listen. The music carried across the desert, blending with the wind, dissolving into the stars. The life of the daughters was not without silence. There were hours when they sat alone, in still chambers lit by a single lamp. In that quiet, they reflected on the mystery of being alive. Their hearts beat, their breath moved, yet they knew their bodies were only temporary vessels. The eternal lived within them, as it lived within all. They touched this truth not through thought, but through silence. In silence, they felt the presence of the unseen. In silence, they knew themselves as more than flesh, more than name, more than the brief span of years. They were streams returning to the ocean. They were sparks returning to the flame. And so their story lingers, carried by desert winds, whispered by the flowing Nile. They are not lost to time. Their devotion still lives in the calm of night, in the quiet of starlit skies, in the hush that falls when the heart remembers its own sacredness. Close your eyes and feel their presence beside you. The daughters walk softly still, tending the altars of memory, carrying bowls of light, pouring water upon the earth. Their footsteps echo in dream. Their voices hum in the chambers of sleep. Rest now in their company. Feel the warmth of the desert night. Feel the calm of the endless river. Let their devotion become your peace, their songs your rest. And as the stars turn slowly overhead, let us drift onward, deeper into stillness, deeper into the gentle embrace of night. Now rest as the daughters return to their temples of light. The mountains sleep beneath a quiet sky. Stone peaks rise like ancient guardians, their crowns veiled in drifting clouds. A hush lingers here, as if even the winds pause to listen. Somewhere among the cliffs, a temple glows with dim firelight. Its columns stand tall, carved from marble, weathered by centuries yet steadfast. The air carries a sweetness of pine and resin, touched with the faint smoke of incense. This is Delphi, a place where the earth breathes mysteries, where the gods are said to whisper through stone and flame. And here in the heart of the temple, the oracles keep their vigil, women chosen to carry voices beyond mortal reach, their words falling like gentle rain upon restless souls. Breathe with the stillness of this place. The mountain air is cool. The night sky is deep. Let the calm of Delphi settle softly around you. Within the temple lies a chamber, low lit and heavy with silence. At its center burns a flame, steady and golden, fed with oils brought from afar. It is said to be Apollo's fire, a light that never sleeps, a warmth that guides. The oracles sit before it, draped in robes the color of fresh wool, their hair crowned with simple laurel leaves. Their faces are calm, touched by the glow of fire and shadow. They wait, not with hurry, but with the patience of stone, for they know the voice of the divine arrives only as the earth allows, like wind through branches, like water through reeds. At times the silence is long. At times the chamber trembles with the murmur of unseen power. Yet the oracles remain, breathing as one with the mountain. The people who come to them carry burdens, kings with heavy crowns, travelers seeking safe roads, mothers worried for their children. Each enters the temple with questions held close to the heart. Yet here in the hush of sacred flame, even the sharpest worry begins to soften. The oracles do not answer with haste. They close their eyes. They breathe the scented air. They listen. When words rise upon their tongues, they fall like leaves upon still water. Slow, measured, gentle. The answers are not commands, but mirrors. They reflect the hidden truth already resting within the seeker's soul. A reminder, a guiding star, a way to walk in peace. One oracle, older than the rest, is called the Keeper of Flame. Her voice is low and steady, like a drum heard from far away. When she speaks, it feels as though the mountain itself is speaking through her. Legends say she has sat by the fire longer than most have lived, her days flowing like a river without end. Her words carry no judgment. They are simple, soft, and full of space, as though each syllable is a doorway to silence. Another oracle is young, her eyes bright with the wonder of starlight. When she lifts her voice, it rises like birds at dawn. Her visions often come in images, rivers glowing, paths unfolding, flames flickering with shapes of the unseen. Those who hear her words feel a kind of lifting, as if the weight of the world has eased for just a breath. Together, the oracles form a circle of stillness, one rooted deep, one reaching high. Between them, balance flows like night and day, river and flame. In the myths of old, it is told that Apollo himself once touched this place. He claimed the temple as sacred ground, giving it the breath of prophecy. The earth below hides fissures where vapors rise, unseen but felt, stirring the mind toward vision. The oracles breathe this breath, not as poison, but as dream. It carries them beyond the ordinary world, where symbols speak and silence sings. Some see images of golden lyres strung with light. Some hear the cry of birds circling high above valleys. Some feel the touch of the sun upon their closed eyelids, even in the depths of night. Through these moments, messages come, not loud, not harsh, but soft as ripples across water. Beyond the temple, Delphi stretches into terraces of stone, where olive trees lean gently toward the sun. Pilgrims walk the winding paths, their sandals brushing against dust and time. The air is rich with mountain herbs, calming to the spirit, steadying to the breath. They pause at fountains where clear water sings, lifting their hands to wash faces, to drink deeply, to let coolness soothe their journey. From afar, the temple's flame can be glimpsed, glowing faint through carved openings. It is a beacon not of power, but of peace, a reminder that in silence wisdom waits, that in listening answers appear. On days of festival, the temple fills with gentle music. Lyres strum softly. Flutes weave notes as light as drifting smoke. The oracles walk in slow procession, carrying bowls of water and sprigs of laurel. Their steps are steady, their robes whispering against the stone. They do not speak. Their silence is its own kind of song. Around them, the crowd grows quiet, heart settling, worries loosening. The flame burns steady, reflected in every eye, reminding all that divine light is not far but near, always near. At the height of the festival, prayers rise in waves, not shouted, not demanded, but whispered like lullabies. They are prayers for harvest, for safe journeys, for health of children, for peace in restless lands. And though each prayer is different, all flow together like many streams into one great river of sound. The oracles stand at its center, hands raised, listening. Their silence gathers the voices, shaping them into blessing. At night, when the temple quiets, the oracles rest beside the flame. They do not sleep fully, but drift in half-dreams. The fire's glow paints the walls in slow patterns, shifting with the gentle crackle of wood. In this half-light, their minds move between worlds. They dream of stars falling into water, of fields opening beneath golden sun, of endless skies where voices call softly, endlessly, without words. The fire is their companion. It never leaves them. Its warmth holds them like a mother's arms, cradling them through every hour. And so they remain, night after night, day after day, living as bridges between human longing and divine stillness. One story tells of a restless king who once climbed the mountain to seek the oracle's voice. He carried with him fear, for his lands were troubled and his crown heavy. When he entered the temple, he expected thunder, command, certainty. Instead, he found silence. The flame flickered softly. The oracles sat unmoving, eyes closed, breathing. At last, the keeper of flame opened her eyes. She spoke but one sentence, her voice like stone softened by rain. The flame burns because it does not rush. The king did not understand at first, but in the silence that followed, the words sank deep. They echoed in his chest, in his breath, in his heart. And as he descended the mountain, he walked more slowly, more gently. The weight upon him eased. He found peace not in power, but in stillness. The oracles of Delphi's flame remind all who come that wisdom is not hidden in distant stars. It rests here, in the quiet of the breath, in the glow of a steady fire, in the patience of stone that has seen centuries pass. Close your eyes now, and feel the mountain air. Cool, still, endless. See the flame before you, steady and golden. Hear the silence around it, deep and full. Let the words of the oracles drift through you like a gentle wind. Not commands, not answers, only reminders of what already sleeps within your soul. Rest in their silence. Rest in their light. Rest in the eternal flame that burns without hurry, without end. And as the night deepens, let us drift onward, deeper into the mountain's stillness, deeper into the dream of fire and stars. Now rest as the oracles return to their flame, and the flame watches over you in peace. The night opens like a curtain. Stars drift above, slow and steady as if painted on a canvas of endless sky. Beneath their glow, the land of Mesopotamia lies quiet, resting between its two rivers. The Tigris and the Euphrates move like silver snakes through the darkness, their waters carrying reflections of the moon. The air is warm, touched by the scent of clay, reeds, and distant fig trees. In this land, where the earth first carried the weight of cities, women sat by the loom. Their hands moved gently, drawing threads from baskets of dyed wool and flax. By oil lamps and starlight, they wove not only cloth but prayers. Each thread carried a whisper, each knot a memory, each pattern a song older than words. The loom stood tall, its frame carved from wood darkened by years. Threads stretched from beam to beam like rays of light waiting to be gathered. The women began their weaving in silence, but soon a hum rose, soft as a cradle song. It was not only a song of work, but of blessing, a song meant to guide the hands, to keep the pattern true, to invite the favor of the goddesses who watched. In Babylon, They told of Ishtar, radiant with the morning star, who walked between heaven and earth. Her spirit was said to flow into cloth when woven with devotion. Robes touched by her blessing carried strength, beauty, and protection. Another story spoke of Nisaba, goddess of writing and wisdom. Some believed each woven pattern was like her tablets, filled with lines that told secret stories, written not with reed and clay, but with thread and light. As the women wove, they felt these presences close, unseen but near. Like a gentle breath in the night, the patterns shimmered as they grew. Diamonds, circles, flowing lines that mirrored rivers and stars. Each design carried meaning. A spiral for eternity, a star for divine watchfulness, a wave for the river's endless gift. Their cloth was more than garment. It was memory, myth, and offering. The elder weaver, her hands wrinkled like dried clay, often whispered that threads were like rivers. They ran parallel side by side until the loom brought them together. So too, she said, did human lives flow apart, only to be joined again by the hand of the divine. Her words moved slowly, like the turning of the river bends, but the younger women listened with wide, patient eyes. On festival nights, when torches lit the streets of Ur or Babylon, their woven cloth was carried to temples, robes for statues of gods, shawls for priestesses who walked in procession, coverings for altars where incense burned. The cloth, born from quiet hands and whispered songs, now shimmered in firelight, alive with color and purpose. It was said that when a priestess of Ishtar wore such a robe, her steps carried the weight of both earth and sky. Her dance was no longer her own. It was the dance of the goddess moving through her. The crowd, watching, felt not the presence of a woman, but the presence of something far greater. The weaving became a bridge, a thread stretched between mortal dust and eternal flame. But even in the simple homes along the riverbanks, weaving held its quiet holiness. Mothers wove swaddling cloth for newborns, singing as they worked. Grandmothers wove blankets, each knot filled with the memory of seasons gone by. Daughters wove belts and veils, knowing they carried not only beauty, but blessing. The river breeze often stirred the threads, making them sway like reeds in water. The weavers would pause, smiling softly as if the gods themselves had breathed upon their work. In those moments, silence grew deep, like the hush before dawn. Hands rested, lamps flickered, and time itself seemed woven into the cloth. In Babylonian myths, the stars were sometimes called the stitches of heaven, each one a light sewn into the dark fabric of night. The women looking upward saw their own work reflected in the sky. They felt themselves not only as makers of cloth, but as part of the great weaving of creation. The rivers, the stars, the wind, all were threads in the divine loom. Their weaving was but a small echo of the greater tapestry, one that stretched beyond sight, binding worlds together. The youngest weaver, with hair dark as river clay, once asked what became of cloth when it grew old and frayed. The elder smiled and answered softly, "Threads never die. They return to the earth, where new hands will gather them again. What frays today becomes tomorrow's cloth, just as what we are becomes tomorrow's story." The girl lowered her eyes, touched the thread between her fingers, and breathed as if holding something sacred. As night deepened, the songs of the weavers grew slower. The oil lamps burned lower, their flames soft and golden. Shadows played upon the walls like drifting spirits. The river outside whispered in its endless voice, a lullaby older than empires. The women rested their hands, leaving the loom in silence. The cloth, half finished, hung in the dim light, its patterns glowing faintly as though alive. The stillness felt like a blessing, a reminder that even unfinished work holds beauty. Some believed that in such moments the goddesses themselves walked quietly among the looms, unseen but near. They touched the threads with invisible hands, blessing the work, weaving their own mysteries into the fabric of human life. When dawn began to glow, soft and pale across the horizon, the women rose. The river shone with a thin veil of mist, as if wrapped in its own woven garment. The first bird songs trembled in the reeds. The women folded their cloth gently, as if lifting a child, and placed it in baskets lined with reeds. The elder pressed her hands upon the finished fabric. Her voice, hushed and steady, carried into the morning air. "May these threads remember. May they carry peace. May they bind heaven and earth together." The younger women bowed their heads, repeating the blessing with quiet voices, their words like ripples upon still water. In the memory of Mesopotamia, long after cities crumbled and towers fell, the weaving of women endured. not only in cloth preserved, but in symbols, in myths, in the image of the eternal loom. It was said that even the gods watched the weavers, learning from their patience, their quiet, their unending devotion to the work of joining thread to thread. Close your eyes now. See the loom before you, tall and waiting. Threads stretch across it like rays of light. Hear the hum of the weavers, steady as a heartbeat. Feel the river breeze pass through the threads, carrying the scent of clay, of fig, of sweet oil. You are a thread, shining, unbroken, part of the pattern. You are woven into the fabric of night, into the fabric of time. Safe, held, endless. Now let the loom fade into darkness. Let the rivers move gently onward. Let the stars shine as stitches in the sky. Rest as the weavers rest, in silence, in stillness, in peace. And let us drift onward, deeper into the tapestry of sleep, where dreams are threads, and night is the loom. Now rest as the stars return to their eternal weaving above. The night is quiet, and the earth seems to breathe slowly. The stars shine like tiny fires in the sky, steady and unhurried. Beneath their watch, the land lies still. Mountains arise like sleeping giants, and within them, deep and hidden, lie the ancient caves. Entrances shaped by time, dark mouths opening into the heart of stone. Here, silence lingers. Here, shadows hold memory. The caves were not empty places. Long ago, people entered with reverence. They stepped softly, carrying small flames of oil lamps, their glow trembling on the walls. In the hush of stone chambers, echoes lived. Every sound or a breath, a song, a prayer, where it was carried and returned, as though the cave itself answered. It was in these hollowed spaces that women, the mothers of ritual, gave voice to the earth. The caves were seen as wombs of creation, stone pressed close like the embrace of the world itself, darkness wrapped around like a soft cloak. And within, new life was imagined, sung, and celebrated. Women gathered here, their voices weaving together in chants both low and high. They called upon the unseen, the eternal, the cycles of life that turned like the moon. They spoke of the Mother, the Great One beneath all names. Sometimes she was Inanna, radiant and fierce. Sometimes she was Sibyl, ancient and crowned with towers. Sometimes she was simply the earth herself, silent, enduring, fertile. In every telling, she was the giver of breath, the keeper of seasons, the one who received and returned. The women sang not only for themselves, but for the fields, the herds, the rivers, and the children yet unborn. Their voices softened the silence of stone, turning emptiness into sanctuary. Each note lingered, echoing back like the heartbeat of the cave. Symbols were painted on the walls, red ochre spirals, hands pressed like signatures of devotion, figures of animals and flowing lines. Some shapes looked like rivers winding through darkness. Others resembled stars scattered across a hidden sky. The paintings were not only art, but prayers left in color. Marks of presence, marks of hope, marks of belonging. One cave held the figure of a woman with wide hips and rounded form. She was not drawn in haste, but carved with care, her shape glowing in torchlight. She stood as symbol of abundance, of nourishment, of endless return. To gaze upon her was to remember the promise that life continues, even in times of winter, even in nights of sorrow. The women touched the stone figure as they passed, pressing their palms against her cool surface. In that touch, they offered thanks, and in that touch, they asked quietly for blessing. In the deepest chambers, the air grew cool and heavy. Drips of water fell from stalactites, steady and patient. Each drop carried the memory of rain from ages past, now hidden in stone. The sound was like a slow drum marking time in the dark. Women listened to it, breathing with it, singing with it, until their voices and the dripping water became one rhythm. Here they performed rituals of return. Seeds were placed in bowls, covered in soil, watered with gentle hands. Candles were lit, small suns against the walls. Stories were told of descent and rebirth, of Inanna entering the underworld, of Persephone taken into shadow and rising again. Every myth was a mirror of the cycles they knew. The seed sleeping in darkness, the child carried in the womb, the sun sinking at dusk only to return at dawn. The caves, with their shadows and echoes, became teachers. They showed that death was not an end but part of the circle. Silence was not emptiness, but the place where life waits to be born. Sometimes, when the moon was new and the night was thick with darkness, the women carried children into the caves. infants swaddled in soft cloth. They sang lullabies that blended with the low hum of the chamber. The caves embraced the sound, cradling it, returning it as a gentle echo. The children stirred, then grew quiet, as though comforted by the earth itself. The mothers whispered blessings for their little ones. May you grow as the river grows. May you return as the sun returns. May you be safe in the arms of the mother. The words, simple and soft, were carried into the stone and held there, preserved like seeds in the dark. At times of sorrow, too, the caves opened their arms. When life was lost, when grief was heavy, women entered the chambers with tears. They lit small lamps, their flames trembling in the damp air. They sang low songs, voices heavy but steady. The echoes carried their grief, turning it into something shared, something softened. They believed that the mother of stone heard every cry, and that no sorrow was forgotten. Here, grief was given space, yet here also healing began. The womb of earth did not hold despair forever. It transformed it, like soil transforms what falls into it into new growth. Seasons passed, and generations changed, but the caves remained. The rituals continued. Children who once slept to lullabies grew to sing them for their own little ones. Hands that pressed symbols upon the walls were joined by new hands, fresh with paint and hope. The memory of the mothers lived not only in the stone, but in the voices that never ceased. Outside, the world shifted. Empires rose and fell. Temples of marble and brick replaced the quiet caves. Yet the caves were never forgotten. Even when people moved into cities, the memory of the sacred caves lived in stories, in dreams, in the hush of night. The caves remain still today, silent, cool, wrapped in shadow. But if one enters with a gentle heart, if one listens closely, the echoes can still be heard. Not only the echo of dripping water, but of ancient songs. Not only the echo of one's own steps, but of countless prayers pressed into stone. The mothers are gone, but their voices linger. Their rituals breathe in the silence, reminding us of the eternal cycle, descent and return, loss and renewal, night and dawn. Now, close your eyes and drift deeper into this memory. See the entrance of the cave, soft in the moonlight. Step gently into its embrace. Feel the cool air, the steady drip of hidden springs. Hear the echoes, soft, endless, tender. You are held in the womb of the earth, safe, cradled, part of the eternal song. You are a seed in the soil, waiting. You are the child in the cradle, resting. You are the voice that joins the ancient chorus, singing in the dark. And the mother holds you, as she has held all before you. Let the cave grow quiet now. Let the shadows soften into sleep. Let the echoes fade into silence, where dreams begin. Rest as the mothers rest. Rest as the caves rest. Rest as the stars return above, patient and eternal. Let us drift onward into the deeper night, into the endless cycle of peace. The desert lies under the wide sky. Its sands shimmer by day, golden and endless. By night the sands turn silver beneath the stars. The air cools, the winds soften, and the silence spreads far and deep. In this vastness, footsteps vanish quickly. Voices are carried away, fading into the horizon. Yet the desert remembers. It holds stories in the dunes, in the rocks, in the hidden shrines carved long ago. Here, among the shifting sands, women once walked as queens unseen. They were priestesses of forgotten gods, guardians of flame and water, keepers of secret rites. They were called hidden, for they veiled themselves in mystery, and the desert itself cloaked their presence. Their lives were woven into the winds, their prayers carried like whispers through the night. The desert was not barren to them. It was alive. Every grain of sand was a spark of time, countless and eternal. The stars above were not distant, but near, like watchful companions. The wind was a messenger, bringing voices from far-off lands. And the hidden queens listened, as one listens to a heartbeat. Their shrines were built of stone, half buried, half revealed. Some lay in caves carved into cliffs where cool shadows stretched deep. Others were small enclosures of rock marked with symbols, guarded by silence. Within these places, lamps were lit. Oil fed the flames, steady and patient. Incense curled upward, a soft ribbon of fragrance mingling with desert air. The queens tended these flames with devotion, believing that as long as the fire burned, so too did the link between the mortal and the divine. They sang to the gods who dwelt beyond the horizon. Some songs were for Alat, the Lady of Radiant Light. Some were for Al-Uzza, fierce star of strength. Some were for Manat, the keeper of fate, who turned the wheel of time with quiet hands. The voices of the priestesses were soft, yet their echoes lingered, carried across sand and stone. Their chants were slow, as though meant to match the rhythm of the dunes themselves, which moved not in haste, but in patience. The desert responded. Winds shifted as they sang, brushing against veils, tugging at robes. Sometimes a falcon circled above, its cry piercing the silence, then fading. Sometimes the sand itself seemed to hum, as if the earth beneath had listened and remembered. The queens lived simple lives, yet their presence was majestic. They wore robes of linen, dyed in soft earth tones, veils drawn across their faces. Jewels were not needed, for the desert sky gave them its crown of stars each night. Their beauty was in their stillness, in the way they carried silence like a mantle, in the way their eyes reflected the firelight of the shrine. They were not rulers of armies, nor holders of wealth. Their reign was over breath, over memory, over the quiet spaces where the sacred touched the world. Their power was unseen, yet it endured longer than stone palaces or golden thrones. For while empires fell, while cities were swallowed by sand, the desert winds still carried the songs of the hidden queens. Pilgrims sometimes found them. Travelers crossing the desert would stumble upon the shrines, drawn by a faint glow or the scent of burning incense. Thirsty and weary, they entered, and there, in the quiet, they were given water. The priestesses offered bowls of cool liquid drawn from hidden wells. The water tasted of life itself, clear and pure. The travelers rested, their heads bowed, while the queens whispered blessings over them. May your path be safe as the stars guide you. May your heart be steady as the dunes endure. May your days return as the sun returns. Then the travelers moved on, carrying the blessing like an unseen talisman. They often did not know the names of the women they met, yet they remembered the calm, the veils, the soft voices in the night. They remembered the feeling of being cared for, even in the middle of the vast desert. Rituals of the hidden queens were woven into cycles of time. At dawn, they greeted the rising sun with songs of light. Their voices rose as the horizon blushed with color. At noon, they sat in silence, letting the stillness of heat surround them, breathing with the earth. At night, they gathered around the flame, offering prayers to the stars, whose slow turning marked the endless wheel of eternity. The desert was both their temple and their teacher. From its stillness, they learned patience. From its storms, they learned endurance. From its horizons, they learned that life was vast, unbounded, without walls. Stories tell that when a child was born among the desert people, the priestesses would bless the newborn beneath the night sky. They lifted the infant gently, letting starlight fall upon its small face. They whispered, "You are as endless as the sands. You are as bright as the stars. You are as strong as the wind that shapes the dunes." The child was then swaddled and returned to its mother, wrapped not only in cloth, but in words that would linger through its life. In times of death, too, the queens gave comfort. They sang for the departed, voices low, rising like smoke. They did not fear endings, for they knew the desert's secret. Nothing truly ended. What was buried in the sand became part of the dunes. What vanished into the horizon returned as the dawn. The hidden queens reminded all who mourned that life was a circle, wide as the desert sky. Legends say that sometimes, in the deepest of nights, the queens would walk out into the dunes. They would stand still, veils trailing, their forms silvered by moonlight. From afar they looked like moving stars. They raised their hands to the heavens, palms open, and for a moment the desert seemed to hold its breath. Some claimed the queens could call the winds to stillness, that even the stars bowed lower when they prayed. Others said that they spoke with spirits of sand and stone, guardians of the desert's hidden wisdom. Whatever truth lay behind these stories, the desert remained their companion, and their presence was felt long after they were gone. The sands shift endlessly, covering and uncovering. Many of the shrines are buried now, their stones sleeping beneath dunes. Yet at night, when the wind is gentle and the stars shine bright, the feeling of the hidden queens returns. Their voices may not be heard with ears, but they are felt in the stillness of the desert air. Their blessings drift like warm winds across the skin, unseen but known. Their prayers move quietly in the silence, like water beneath the sand. To lie in the desert at night is to feel their presence. To close your eyes beneath the stars is to sense their watchful gaze. They remain, veiled and eternal, woven into the breath of the desert itself. Now as you rest, imagine the vast desert stretching out before you. The sands are silver beneath the moon. The wind is soft, carrying a faint song you cannot quite hear. A shrine glows faintly in the distance, its flame steady, its incense sweet. You step closer, feeling the warmth of the fire, the calm of the air. The hidden queens are near. They lift their veils only in spirit, revealing not faces, but presence, a peace that surrounds you. You are safe in their care. You are guided as the stars guide the traveler. You are blessed as the dunes hold the memory of rain. Let the desert grow still now. Let the flame in the shrine flicker gently, steady as a heartbeat. Let the winds soften into silence. Rest as the queens once rested. Rest as the sands rest. Rest as the stars return to their slow, eternal dance. And let us drift onward, carried by warm winds into deeper sleep, where dreams move as gently as desert sands. Night falls gently over the ancient sea. The waves are slow, silver with moonlight. The island of Crete lies like a dream in the water, its mountains soft in shadow, its valleys touched by the cool breath of the night. Somewhere far inland, hidden in groves of cypress and olive, fires once flickered in sacred courtyards. And there, in those moonlit spaces, women of the temple lifted their hands. They were the serpent dancers. The air around them was warm, carrying the scent of resin and earth. Soft drums pulsed in the distance, slow and steady, like the rhythm of a heartbeat. Each sound echoed against stone walls painted with spirals and flowers, dolphins and lilies. The walls themselves seemed alive, glowing in the flicker of firelight. In the center of the courtyard, the priestesses stood, veils brushing their shoulders, eyes reflecting the flame. In their hands they carried serpents. Smooth bodies glided between their fingers, scales catching the light like ripples of water. The snakes did not strike. They rested, coiling calmly, as if they too knew they belonged here, in this sacred act. The dancers raised their arms to the sky, bodies swaying like reeds by a river. The serpents curved and flowed with them, as if the dance belonged to both woman and creature together. The people of Crete saw the serpent not with fear, but with reverence. The snake shed its skin, leaving the old behind and shining in new form. To the priestesses, this was not a danger, but a promise. Renewal. Change. The soul reborn again, just as the earth renews after the rain. The dancers moved in circles. Their steps were slow, tracing the eternal loop of the serpent's body. Round and round they turned. Their feet kissed the stone floor. Their arms cut shapes through the smoky night air. Every motion carried meaning. Every breath was prayer. Above them the stars stretched wide and bright. The night sky of Crete was a tapestry, unrolling its secrets for those who watched with quiet hearts. The priestesses knew the stars as signs of the gods, guiding lights across the dark sea. As they danced, the heavens seemed to lean closer, as if listening, as if watching. The serpents coiled more tightly, then loosened, following the rhythm. Their scales shimmered with the reflection of flame and moon, as though each snake held a star along its spine. The women's faces were serene, neither smiling nor sorrowful. They were simply present, living bridges between earth and sky. In the old temples of Knossos, painted with crimson pillars and white stone, these dances carried on for centuries. The people brought offerings of honey, of grain, of fresh flowers. The air was filled with fragrance. Rose petals scattered across the ground, mingling with the dust of time. Every ritual was gentle, not rushed. The priestesses knew the heart of devotion was not in noise, but in rhythm. Not in grandness, but in presence. So they swayed step by step, tracing the eternal spiral. The serpent whispered of the unseen, of life beneath the soil, of hidden rivers moving where the eye cannot follow. Imagine yourself in that courtyard. The firelight brushes your skin with warmth. The cool sea breeze moves against your cheek. Drums murmur softly, steady as your own breathing. And before you, the serpent dancers move in unison, graceful as waves. You notice the way their veils catch the light, the way the serpents seem to listen, the way the air feels thicker here, as though the divine is close enough to touch. Your eyelids grow heavy, your breath slows to match the drums. The dance begins to cradle you, as if the whole island has become a lullaby. The serpent dancers were keepers of balance. To them, the snake was not darkness alone, nor light alone. It was both. It lived hidden beneath the soil, yet also stretched upward with the rising sun. It slipped between worlds, moving in silence, carrying the wisdom of what is hidden. When the dancers swayed, they became mirrors of that truth, They showed the people how to live in balance, how to shed what is old, how to rise again with gentleness. Every turn of their bodies was a lesson written not in words, but in motion, not spoken aloud, but breathed into the heart. As the night deepened, torches dimmed. The stars grew brighter, spilling silver across the stones. The serpents grew still, coiling loosely in the women's palms, resting as if lulled by the movement. The dancers slowed, their feet pressed into silence, their arms lowered, and the courtyard grew still, like the pause between breaths. In that silence, the people felt peace. They knew the gods were near. They knew the earth itself was alive. And for a moment, the boundary between human and divine seemed to dissolve, like mist in morning sun. Time drifts forward like a gentle tide. The old temples crumble. The paint fades. The pillars fall. But the image of the serpent dancers remains. Their presence lingers, carried in the quiet of the wind, remembered in the shape of old stones. Even now, under the same stars, the island holds their memory. And perhaps, when the night is calm and the sea is soft, their steps can still be felt, echoing in the earth, swaying beneath the soil, keeping the rhythm alive. The serpents still shed, the earth still renews, and the dance continues, unseen but unbroken. Let the image linger with you. The firelight, the steady drums, the serpents coiling in peace, the women swaying like waves, everything gentle, everything whole. Now your breath is steady.
The night is calm.
The story rests. Let us drift onward into deeper silence, where dreams wait softly, like serpents shedding light in the dark. The night unfolds over the misty hills. A silver moon leans low, casting its light on stones arranged in circles, silent and ancient. The air carries the scent of damp grass, oak leaves, and earth just kissed by dew. All is quiet, save for the whisper of wind brushing against tall heather. It is here, in these still fields, that the voices of Celtic priestesses once rose. Their words drifted like smoke into the night, soft and guiding, carrying visions to those who listened with open hearts. The stone circles stood like gateways between worlds, tall, weathered, patient. Each stone carried stories etched not with hands, but with time and shadow. When the priestesses walked among them, the air thickened. The people who gathered felt the shift. It was as though the stones remembered every word ever spoken between them, every song, every prayer. And so the priestesses spoke, knowing their voices would not fade, but linger in the very air. They wore robes of wool and linen, simple yet flowing. Around their necks hung charms of bone, amber, and polished stone. Their hair, often long, moved with the breeze like strands of the earth itself. Eyes closed, hands raised, they listened before they spoke. For their gift was not only in utterance, but in hearing what the wind carried. The tribes came to them seeking guidance. Warriors before battle, mothers awaiting birth, the sick and weary longing for relief. The priestesses stood beneath the great oak, the tree they named as sacred. Its branches stretched wide, sheltering like the arms of an elder. Roots spread deep into the unseen, binding earth to spirit. Here they listened to the rustle of leaves, to the flight of birds, to the soft crackle of fire. And from these signs they shaped visions. Some spoke of journeys across water. Some spoke of storms that would test the tribe's strength. Others carried gentler words, songs of healing, of herbs that soothed fever, of rest that would mend the heart. Every word was shaped not to command, but to guide, not to bind, but to open. And the people listened because the voices of the priestesses were like the mist itself, gentle, surrounding, and impossible to ignore. The night of ritual was slow, unhurried. A fire glowed at the center of the circle, its light painting the stones in shades of gold and crimson. The flames flickered with a rhythm like breath. Around it, the people sat in silence, waiting. Drums sounded low and steady, echoing the pulse of the earth. Then the priestesses began to chant. Their voices rose together, weaving like threads in a single cloth. Low tones met high tones. One voice carried sorrow, another hope, another the steady calm of the river. The words were ancient, older than memory, sung in a tongue shaped by wind and water. Those who listened felt their own hearts shift, as though the chant was not outside them, but moving within. Healing flowed like unseen waters. Visions drifted through the mind, soft as dream. The Celtic people believed that life and death were not opposites, but companions. To die was to cross a threshold. To live was to walk between thresholds, carrying light borrowed from eternity. The priestesses held this truth gently, and in their voices it was shared. When a loved one passed, the women gathered the tribe beneath the oak. They lit candles that flickered like stars fallen to earth. They sang, not with grief alone, but with faith that the soul traveled onward. The circle of stones was seen as a passageway, a doorway where the living could whisper farewell, and the departed could drift into the next horizon. Even sorrow softened in their presence, like rain dissolving into soil. The priestesses were healers as well as seers. They knew the plants of the fields, the roots of the forests, the blossoms hidden in shadows, chamomile for calm, willow bark for pain, mugwort for dreams. They spoke to herbs as to friends, asking permission before gathering. Every leaf was treated as sacred. Every seed carried the spark of the divine. When a child was ill, they placed herbs upon coals, letting the smoke curl like incense, carrying prayers upward. When a warrior returned wounded, they crushed roots into paste, binding the body with care, whispering words of strength. Healing was not only of flesh, but of spirit. And so, their voices lingered over the sick, singing softly until rest took hold, until the soul itself remembered it was whole. Visions were the gift most sought. Some came in dreams, where priestesses saw rivers turning, stars falling, or animals speaking. Others came as sudden knowing, when the sound of a raven's wing or the shape of clouds revealed meaning. To the tribes, these visions were not strange, but natural, echoes of the unseen world brushing against the seen. The priestesses spoke them aloud with care, letting each word fall like water into waiting hands. They knew visions were not commands, but mirrors. What one saw in the mirror shaped the path they would choose. Imagine now the quiet of that misty field. You sit among the people, the fire warming your face, the night cool on your back. The priestess stands before you, her voice steady, calm as a drifting tide. She speaks of the oak's roots, how they move unseen yet hold all things steady. She speaks of the stars, how they guide sailors even in darkness. Her voice is slow, soft, and each word feels as though it belongs not only to the air, but to you. Your breath steadies. Your eyelids grow heavy. The chant of the women carries you, not upward, not away, but inward, deeper into stillness. The circle of stones feels eternal. The oak above you holds you in quiet arms, and the mist covers you like a blanket. As the ritual ends, the fire fades to embers. The voices soften to a hum, then to silence. Only the night remains vast and open. The people leave slowly, each carrying a sense of calm, as though something heavy has been set down. The priestesses remain a while longer. They whisper to the oak. They press their palms to the stones. They listen once more to the wind, asking if the land has more to say. Then they too slip into the mist, their presence lingering even as their forms fade. The voices of the Celtic priestesses have not vanished. They echo in the rustle of oak leaves. They sing in the call of ravens. They rest in the spiral of stone circles that still stand in quiet fields. Their words are carried in the mist, in the breath of the earth, waiting for those who pause to listen. Tonight, you may feel them close, in the hush of the air, in the weight of the stars, in the rhythm of your own heart. Their voices soothe not with command, but with comfort, not with demand, but with presence, soft as dreams, enduring as stone. And now, as the story settles, so does your spirit. The oak lowers its branches over you. The mist gathers around you. The stars lean closer, patient and kind. The voices fade into silence, leaving only peace. Now rest as the stars return. Let us drift onward into stillness, where dreams wait, like embers glowing quietly in the dark. The night stretches across the desert sky. Stars shimmer above, scattered like grains of glowing sand. The air is cool and dry, carrying the faint scent of ash, resin, and saffron. Somewhere within the stillness, a flame flickers. Its glow rests inside a sacred chamber, sheltered from wind and time. This is the altar of fire, and around it move the guardians, women who kept the eternal flame alive. The fire was no ordinary fire. It was the heart of the world. Each spark was believed to carry a soul's journey, endless and unbroken. As long as the flame lived, so too did the rhythm of the people, their prayers, and their hope. To tend this flame was not a task, but a devotion, a trust passed down through generations, from mother to daughter, from elder to novice. The women of Persia who cared for the fire did so in silence and song. They stepped lightly upon stone floors worn smooth by centuries. Their robes were soft, dyed with earth's own colors, clay red, sand gold, smoke gray. Veils brushed across their shoulders like whispers of the desert wind. Their hands carried small bundles of fragrant wood, herbs, and pressed oils. Every offering was given with reverence. The altar itself stood in the center of the temple, raised upon carved stone. It glowed like a sun that never set. The fire's light danced upon walls painted with stars, lions, and winged guardians. Shadows moved gently across the chamber, bending as if to bow. The sound of the flame was steady and low, like the breath of the earth. Those who entered the temple came barefoot. They carried silence with them, leaving behind the noise of the world. Before the fire they bowed, for it was said that to see the flame was to glimpse one's own soul reflected back. The guardians worked in rhythm with time. At dawn they added cedar and juniper, letting the smoke rise like prayers into the waking sky. At midday they sprinkled saffron, the air filling with golden scent, a reminder of the sun's strength. At dusk they laid sweet resins, so the flame glowed richer as the stars appeared. And at midnight, when the world was hushed, they whispered chants, keeping the fire's spirit company in the loneliest hours. Their voices were not loud. They flowed like streams through stone, quiet and clear. The chants carried blessings for the living, for the departed, and for those yet to come. In their voices the flame seemed to lean, listening, as though it too needed their care. The fire was seen as a bridge. One side was the earth, heavy and solid. The other side was the unseen, where spirits traveled. Every flicker of light was a traveler moving from one horizon to the next. To tend the fire was to tend the passage of souls. The women who guarded it knew this. They moved with patience, with hands steady, with hearts calm. In the quiet of night, when the temple was empty, they often sat close to the flame. Its warmth wrapped around them, soothing against the desert chill. They would close their eyes, listening. Some said the fire spoke not in words, but in feelings. A rush of heat might mean joy. A sudden stillness might mean sorrow. And when sparks rose like stars, they believed a soul had crossed into freedom. The people who lived beyond the temple carried stories of these women. They said the guardians were not only keepers of flame, but also keepers of balance. When a child was born, a spark was lit in honor of the new life. When someone passed away, an ember was set aside, carried in prayer until the soul's journey was safe. The fire never ended. It simply changed shape, moving from spark to spark, from body to body, from age to age. Imagine the temple now. The stone walls cool and still. The fire's glow soft, painting everything with gentle gold. The guardians move slowly, robes brushing against the ground, footsteps barely heard. One carries wood in her hands. Another sprinkles resin. Another hums a melody old as the desert winds. Together they form a circle around the flame, not of stone, not of metal, but of devotion. Their circle is unbroken, like the fire itself. Each guardian knows she is part of something larger than her own life. Her care is not only for today, but for tomorrow and for the unseen days far beyond. The flame was also a teacher. It reminded the people of impermanence, how every shape changes, yet light continues. The guardians watched as logs became embers, as embers became ash, as ash was swept away, and still the fire lived on. From this they understood the soul, that the body may change, fade, or crumble, yet the spark within travels onward, untouched. Many nights they told stories by the fire's glow, stories of stars born from sparks, stories of heroes who carried flames in their hearts, stories of the first fire given to humankind, a gift from the divine. Children listening would lean close, eyes heavy, breathing slow, lulled by both flame and voice. The stories, like the fire, were never meant to end, only to pass from one soul to the next. The desert around the temple stretched wide and endless. By day, the sun burned bright, casting heat upon sand and stone. By night, the cold wrapped around the land, and stars poured across the sky in rivers of silver. Travelers who saw the fire glowing from the temple described it as a star upon the earth, a star that never moved, never dimmed, always waiting. They said it guided them like the heavens did, that to glimpse it was to feel safe, no matter how long the road. There were times of storm, when winds howled and dust rose high. Yet within the temple the fire remained untouched. The guardians stood watch, shielding it with their bodies, their cloaks, their prayers. It was not only flame they protected, but the heartbeat of the people. They knew that if the fire were ever lost, despair would spread like shadow. So they stayed, through storm, through drought, through the silence of centuries. The fire never failed, because their devotion never wavered. In the hush of midnight, when all was still, The guardians sometimes dreamed with open eyes. They gazed into the flame and saw rivers, mountains, oceans. They saw faces of those yet unborn, smiling softly in light. They saw the world as endless, turning gently, bathed in warmth. For them, the fire was not only fire. It was vision, memory, promise. It was everything bound into one simple glow. And when their time came to leave this life, each guardian entrusted the flame to another. The circle continued. The fire endured. The light of one soul slipped quietly into another, just as sparks rise and fall, never vanishing, only changing form. Now imagine yourself close to that fire. The warmth against your skin, the golden glow across your closed eyes, the quiet hum of voices, soft as the breath of wind. Your body feels still, safe, resting. The flame flickers like a heartbeat, steady, unbroken. You breathe with it. Slow, calm, endless. For a moment, you too are part of the circle, a guardian of the flame, a keeper of the eternal spark. The fire lowers now, glowing softer, like embers at rest. The guardians sit quietly, eyes half closed, watching over it with patience. The desert outside lies silent, stars unmoving in the deep sky. All is calm, all is safe. The flame continues its journey, just as your spirit continues its own. Now rest, as the stars return. Let the flame carry you, spark by spark, into dreams. Let us drift onward, into the quiet glow of eternity. In the soft hush of twilight, when the day loosens its hold, and night stretches her silken veil across the sky, a gentle stillness falls upon the land of India. The air is warm and sweet, touched with the fragrance of jasmine and the faint smoke of sandalwood rising from temple lamps. Across the riverbanks, the last golden rays slip into the waters, and the world grows hushed, as if it, too, leans closer to listen. In this quiet hour, the stories of the divine sisters are whispered like lullabies through the trees, carried by the breeze that stirs the lotus ponds. Their names, Lakshmi, Saraswati, and Durga, float like soft bells in the evening air. To hear their stories is to be cradled by rivers of devotion, each one flowing with gentle wisdom, guiding the spirit like a slow current toward rest. Beneath temple steps, where stone has been warmed by countless suns, women gather with oil lamps in their hands. Their movements are slow, unhurried, as if time itself bends to their rhythm. They place the lamps in rows, and soon the flames shimmer like little stars fallen to earth. Each flame is a prayer, each light a soft echo of the eternal. The first flame belongs to Lakshmi, the goddess of gentle fortune. Her presence is felt not in sudden gold, nor in the loud noise of wealth, but in the quiet abundance of a full harvest, the steady warmth of a home, the tender glow of kindness. She is imagined as seated upon a lotus, its petals unfolding in endless purity. Her hands pour streams of coins, yet her eyes shine with calm compassion. To call her name is to invite not only prosperity but peace. The women lift their voices in soft song. The words do not press or strain. They drift like leaves upon a stream. In their voices, Lakshmi's spirit shimmers, reminding the listener that true richness is not counted in jewels, but in moments of harmony, in hearts that rest gently beside one another. Beside her flame burns another, soft and clear. This is the flame of Saraswati, the goddess of wisdom, learning, and song. Her image rests in the mind like the touch of flowing water. She carries a veena, a stringed instrument, and her music is said to weave the world with meaning. Where she walks, rivers sing, and where she breathes, knowledge blossoms like white lotuses. In the temple courtyard, a young girl kneels with a palm leaf scroll. Her fingers trace letters slowly, carefully, as if each one were a gift. The priestess beside her hums a chant of Saraswati, asking for clarity, for vision, for the gentle strength of understanding. For it is Saraswati who teaches that wisdom is not a heavy weight, but a light that guides the heart through shadows. Her flame is pale, almost silver in its glow, like moonlight upon still water. To watch it is to feel a soft calm settle in the mind, like a breeze smoothing ripples across a pond. Her gift is silence that teaches, stillness that reveals. To call her is to open a window in the soul through which the winds of inspiration drift quietly. The third flame burns deeper, steadier. This is the flame of Durga, the protector, the fierce mother who holds both love and strength in her many hands. She is often pictured upon a lion, her gaze unshaken, her arms carrying weapons of light. Yet even in her strength, there is tenderness. For Durga does not rise in anger. She rises in care, shielding what is fragile. standing guard over what is sacred. In the circle of women, her name is chanted with slow rhythm, the voices deep, the drums low, like the steady beat of the earth itself. She is not distant, but near as close as the heartbeat. To call upon her is to feel safe, to know that even in the darkness there is a watchful presence, a mother who does not sleep. Her flame flickers with warmth and depth, like embers in a hearth. To gaze upon it is to feel the body loosen its fears, to let go of worries carried through the day. Her fire teaches that protection, too, can be soft, like a blanket drawn close, like a lion resting beside its cubs. Together, the three flames shimmer, side by side, as if sisters themselves. Lakshmi with her golden abundance, Saraswati with her silver clarity, Durga with her glowing strength, three rivers flowing into one sea, three songs woven into one harmony. The women who tend these flames move gently, as though guided by unseen hands. Their footsteps echo softly on the stone, their veils ripple with the night wind. The air grows thick with incense, curling and delicate. Above the stars awaken. Each star is a small flame, mirroring the lamps below. The heavens and the earth seem to answer one another, light for light, song for song. The night itself becomes a temple, vast and endless, roofed with starlight. The stories of the sisters flow through time like rivers that never dry. In villages, mothers tell them to children, their voices low, their rhythm steady, until small eyes drift closed. In the grand halls of temples, priests recite them to the sound of bells, their echoes carrying like waves across marble floors. In quiet hearts, they are remembered in silence, like petals pressed between the pages of an old book. Lakshmi reminds that peace begins in gratitude. Saraswati whispers that wisdom comes gently like dawn spreading across the horizon. Durga assures that safety is never lost, for love itself is a shield. Together, they form a circle: abundance, wisdom, and strength. Three lights that never fail, and so the listener, too, may rest in their circle. As if seated by a lotus pond, with fireflies flickering in the reeds, the air cool and calm, the water still and deep. The mind loosens its grip on the day. Thoughts soften. Breath steadies. The night itself begins to cradle as the sisters watch. The flames grow smaller as the hours pass, yet their glow does not fade. It lingers in the spirit, even as the eyes grow heavy.
The women fold their hands in prayer.
The stars drift slowly across the heavens. Somewhere, a night bird calls once, then falls silent. The stories fade into the quiet of the night like waves retreating from the shore. Only the soft rhythm of breath remains, and as the last lamp flickers, the world exhales. Now rest, as the stars return. Let the songs of the divine sisters flow like rivers within you. Let them carry you, slowly and gently, into dreams. Let us drift onward, into the deep stillness of night. The night spreads its velvet cloak across the wide sky. Stars shimmer like ancient fires, each one a whisper of memory. The land rests in a deep breath. Savannas stretching under moonlight, forests holding their silence, rivers moving slowly as if half asleep. In this quiet, a story rises, soft as smoke, gentle as the low hum of drums carried by the wind. Here in the heart of Africa, the voices of spirit guides drift through time. Women, both young and old, were once seen as bridges between the living and the ancestors. Through them, harmony was woven like cloth. Through them, the songs of the past found their way into the present. Their dances, their chants, their whispers beneath the stars carried healing like water carried across dry earth. Picture a wide clearing where the grass bends gently to the night air. At its center, a fire glows, not fierce but steady. Its smoke curls upward like a prayer, joining the stars. Around the fire, women gather. Their robes flow like rivers of fabric painted with earth's colors into clay red, deep brown, the golden shade of sunlit dust. The circle is wide and its rhythm is older than memory. A drum begins, soft and slow, like a heartbeat. Then another joins, echoing the first. The sound does not press forward, it carries backward, reaching into the land where ancestors dwell. Every beat is a bridge, every pause an open door. The women move with the drums, feet pressing into the earth, hands rising to the sky. Bodies swaying like trees touched by wind. They are not dancing for show. They are dancing as vessels. Each step calls a voice. Each movement invites a spirit. the line between worlds thins until it feels as if the ancestors themselves are standing at the edge of the firelight, waiting to be heard. One woman steps forward. Her hair is wrapped in cloth, her eyes half closed in calm. She lifts her hands, and a chant begins to rise. Her voice is not loud, but it is steady, carrying a melody that seems to have no beginning, no end. It is a thread pulled from the silence, weaving its way into the hearts of those who listen. The chant is a calling. It is a reminder that those who came before still walk beside the living, that no soul is ever lost, only carried forward like a seed on the wind, like a flame passed from one torch to another. Her song drifts upward where the stars shine down, and the stars answer, twinkling in rhythm as if echoing her words. The listeners close their eyes. They feel the presence of grandmothers and great-grandmothers, of sisters long gone, of mothers who watch from beyond the veil. The air thickens, warm and alive, as though the spirits themselves are breathing through the night. From the forest's edge, the sound of soft rattles joins the drums. A group of women carry gourds filled with stones, shaking them gently in time with the chant. The sound is like rainfall, light, cleansing, endless. Each rattle is believed to scatter sickness, to clear shadows from the body, to chase away sorrow. The forest seems to sway in agreement, leaves trembling in the moonlight. A child watches from her mother's lap. Her eyes grow heavy, but she does not turn away. She sees the women's dance, the fire's glow, the shapes of shadows moving like ancestors in the circle. For her, this is not a lesson written in words. It is a memory pressed into her spirit, one she will carry when she is grown. The guides speak not only with song, but with silence. Between the drums, between the chants, there are long pauses. In those pauses, the night speaks. The crackle of fire, the sigh of wind through the grass, the distant call of an owl. All are part of the conversation. The living and the spirit world listen together, sharing the same stillness, as though the earth itself is a great ear. In some villages, it is said that the women guides could enter dreams, that they could step softly into the sleeping mind and carry messages across the veil. A dream of water might mean healing. A dream of fire might mean change. A dream of birds taking flight could be a call to freedom. For those who awoke in fear, the women would soothe with words like lullabies. "Do not fear the dream," they would whisper. "It is only a river showing where it flows." And the one who dreamed would feel calm again, knowing that the ancestors were guiding their steps, even in sleep. The spirits came not only to warn or to heal, but also to bless. A harvest was celebrated with song, calling ancestors to taste the first fruits. A birth was welcomed with dance, inviting the spirits of the family to guard the child. Even in times of sorrow, when someone crossed into the beyond, the women would gather with slow steps and low voices, carrying the soul with dignity, guiding it like a lantern through the dark. Each ritual, each gesture was part of a great weaving, a tapestry where the living and the departed were threads side by side, never separate, never alone. The fire burns lower now. Its glow softens, no longer a flame, but embers. The drums slow, their rhythm stretching like a long breath. The dancers' steps grow lighter, almost like shadows gliding across the earth. The chants fade into humming. The humming fades into silence, and still the presence of the ancestors lingers, like warmth after the sun has set, like the scent of rain that remains after clouds have passed. The women bow their heads. The circle closes. The spirits return to their quiet dwelling, yet their comfort remains, like a shawl wrapped around the night. And so, across savannas and forests, this truth is carried, that the ancestors never leave, that they walk in the rustle of the grass, that they speak in the song of the drum, that they guide in the silence of dreams. The women, the spirit guides, remain as bridges. They hold the torch. They keep the song. They remind the world that love never dies. It only changes its shape. And you, drifting now toward sleep, may feel their rhythm too. The steady drum of your heartbeat, the gentle song of your breath, the warmth of unseen hands watching over you. Now the savanna grows quiet. The fire has become ash. The stars shimmer softly, patient and kind. The spirits rest, yet they do not depart. They hover near, like shadows made of light. Let the story close as the night deepens. Let your body rest as the ancestors keep watch. Let the drums fade into your breath, slow and gentle. Let the silence cradle you like arms holding you safe. Now rest as the stars return. Let us drift onward, carried by their song into dreams. The night opens gently like a scroll unrolled beneath the stars. The sky is calm, brushed with silver, its surface rippling with faint clouds that move like silk in water. The moon hangs steady, round and glowing, softening the edges of rooftops, rivers, and distant mountains. The world exhales, and in this long breath, the memory of ancient mothers begins to rise. They were called the Heavenly Mothers, women wrapped in silk and wisdom, keepers of balance, protectors of harmony. Their voices moved like rivers, their prayers lifted like incense through the sky. Dynasties came and went, yet their presence remained, like constellations that guide travelers across the dark. In the heart of an old kingdom, lanterns once flickered outside temple gates. Their glow was gentle, their flames steady, guarded against the wind by painted glass. Within those gates, where the air was fragrant with sandalwood and quiet with waiting, women stood at altars. Their robes trailed like rivers, embroidered with cranes and blossoms, signs of longevity and peace. They carried bowls of water, cups of tea, baskets of fruit, and bundles of incense. Each offering was placed with hands that moved slowly, deliberately, as though each gesture shaped the very order of the cosmos. They did not pray only for themselves. They prayed for the emperor, for the court, for the farmers bending over rice paddies, for the children who played under mulberry trees. Their voices were threads in the great tapestry of the Tao, the way of balance, the rhythm that joins heaven and earth. With each prayer, they sought harmony, believing that when people lived in tune with the heavens, the land would flourish, the rivers would not flood, the winds would not tear. At night, when the temples grew still, the women stepped outside. The sky above them was vast and eternal, a scroll painted with constellations. They lifted their hands, palms open to the stars. Each star was seen as a lantern of the ancestors, a watchful eye of heaven. To them, the stars were not distant fires, but luminous seeds, each one carrying a blessing, a memory, a promise. Some sang as they prayed. The sound was soft, like lullabies drifting through bamboo groves. It was said that these songs were not only heard by those nearby, but also by the stars themselves. And in return, the stars answered, shimmering brighter, swaying slightly, as though the whole sky breathed with them. There were stories of the goddess Shi Wangmu, the queen mother of the West. She was said to dwell on a high mountain, her palace guarded by tigers and leopards, her garden filled with peaches of immortality. When the Heavenly Mothers prayed, they often called upon her name, for she was seen as a great mother who held both mercy and power, the yin and the yang, the gentle hand and the fierce storm. In their dances, they moved in circles to honor her. Slow, spiraling steps, hands rising and falling like wings. Each circle mirrored the wheel of seasons, the cycle of life, the roundness of the moon. The movements were not hurried, not sharp. They flowed like water poured from a clay vessel, steady and sure. To watch was to be lulled, to feel time itself soften into a gentle current. In the hush of dawn, when mist curled around mountain peaks, the women prepared sacred tea. Leaves were steeped with care, and the steam lifted in thin streams toward the heavens. They believed the rising steam carried their prayers upward, threading into the clouds, entering the ears of gods and spirits. Each sip they took afterward was not only nourishment but communion, a reminder that heaven dwelt in the simplest acts of earth. Beside lotus ponds, they sat in silence. The water reflected the sky so clearly that it seemed the stars had fallen into the pond itself. Lotus flowers opened slowly, their petals pale as morning light, their hearts golden. The women watched them with reverence. The lotus, rooted in mud yet rising pure and unstained, became their guide, a mirror of their own path, to remain balanced, to rise above, to bloom in the stillness of being. They spoke often of harmony between the five elements: wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. To them, these were not abstractions but living presences. The tree swaying in the courtyard was wood. The flame flickering in the lantern was fire. The stone beneath their feet was earth. The bronze bell that called for prayer was metal. And the river winding beyond the wall was water. Each element was honored, tended, and balanced, just as each heartbeat, each breath, was part of the greater order. The Heavenly Mothers moved between these elements as guardians, making sure none grew too strong or too weak, for imbalance brought chaos. And so, in quiet rituals, they kept the world aligned. When children were ill, families sought the women's guidance. They would hum soft chants, touch the child's brow with cool water, and whisper prayers into the night air. The healing was not only in herbs or in words, but in presence. the calm that flowed from them like spring water, the certainty that unseen hands were cradling the child. Many said that the child's dreams afterward were visited by radiant women in silk robes, carrying lanterns that never burned out. And when emperors were troubled, when wars threatened or famine pressed upon the land, the heavenly mothers walked to the palace gates. They carried not swords nor banners, but incense and prayer. They reminded rulers of humility, of the Tao's flowing path, where forcing against the current only led to ruin. Some emperors listened, and peace endured. Others did not, and storms came. Yet through all, the women kept their silence steady, their prayers unbroken, their presence like the roots of an ancient pine. In the quiet of night, when all offerings were done, when lanterns were dimmed, and even the crickets grew silent, the women gathered again in circles. They spoke not with words, but with eyes, with breath, with stillness. They believed that in such silence, heaven itself leaned closer. In such silence, the great mothers of the stars, those who had walked before them, whispered their guidance through the rustle of silk, the flutter of a moth's wings, the cool touch of moonlight, and the women listened, always listening, for listening was a form of prayer too. Listening was a way to honor the Tao. As the dynasty shifted like sand, their presence never faded. Though names changed, though temples fell and rose again, the image of women as keepers of heaven's balance endured. In dreams, in tales whispered at firesides, in ink brushed across scrolls, they lived on. They were mothers not only of children, but of wisdom, of patience, of balance itself. And tonight their story drifts once more across the quiet sky. The heavenly mothers walk again in silk robes that shimmer like moonlight. They carry lanterns filled with starlight. They move with grace that echoes rivers, that mirrors the slow blooming of the lotus. They remind the heart that harmony is always near, like breath, like stillness, like the eternal turning of the stars. The night deepens now. The silk sky folds darker, wrapping earth in gentle shadow. The stars shine like eyes half closed in rest. The lotus ponds are still. The lanterns have gone out, leaving only the glow of the moon. Let your breath match their rhythm. Slow, balanced, calm. Let your thoughts drift like steam rising from tea, soft and vanishing into the sky. Let your spirit rest in the circle of their song. Now close the story like a scroll. Now rest as the stars return. Now drift onward, carried in silk and starlight into dreams. The night opens with the hush of waves. The sea stretches wide, silvered by the moon. Each ripple carries a shimmer, each tide a soft whisper. Palm leaves sway gently, moved by the breath of the ocean wind. The shore glows with shells and wet sand, gleaming like scattered pearls. Here, where water and land embrace, the ocean priestesses once walked. Women of the tide, their voices mingled with the waves. They carried songs older than memory, prayers shaped by the rhythm of the sea. Their hearts were attuned to the pull of the moon, the rise and fall of tides, the eternal dance of water and sky. In the villages of the islands, the sea was everything. It fed, it guided, it protected, and it tested. Children grew up with its sound woven into their dreams. Fishermen rose before dawn to meet its swells. And when storms raged, the people turned to the priestesses, for they alone spoke the language of the waters. The women walked barefoot across coral sands, their feet kissed by foam. They gathered shells not as ornaments, but as vessels of spirit. Each shell, they believed, held the echo of the sea's voice. When placed at the altar, the shells hummed softly, carrying prayers deep into the ocean's heart. Their robes were woven with threads dyed by the indigo sea. Around their necks hung necklaces of pearls and mother of pearl, shimmering like drops of moonlight. Their hair often carried the scent of salt and flowers, for they were both of earth and water, both grounded and flowing. At dusk, the priestesses led the people in songs. The sun sank into the horizon, painting the waves with gold and rose. Drums throbbed low, steady as a heartbeat. Voices rose in layers, slow and smooth, carried by the wind. The songs were prayers, offerings of gratitude for calm seas, for safe voyages, for fish that filled the nets. The ocean responded. When the songs were gentle, the waters lay calm, reflecting stars as though the sky had fallen into the waves. When storms threatened, the songs grew deeper, like chants rising from the very bones of the earth. It was said that the ocean listened, and though its will was vast, it bent at times to the voices of its daughters. By moonlight, the priestesses performed their sacred dances. They moved in flowing patterns, arms sweeping like waves, bodies swaying like palm trees in the wind. Each step was a tide, each turn a spiral of water. The dance was not for spectacle, but for balance. Through their movement, they mirrored the sea, reminding the people that to live with the ocean was to live in rhythm, never against it. The children watched wide-eyed, lulled by the motion. Elders closed their eyes, hearing in the swish of robes and the stamp of feet the same eternal pattern as the tide. Even the animals seemed to pause, seabirds resting on rocks, turtles waiting at the shore, as though all of nature recognized the sacredness of the moment. In the temples by the shore, altars were built of coral and stone. Water jars stood at each corner, always filled with fresh seawater. Offerings of coconuts, flowers, and fish were laid with care. Shell trumpets rested nearby, their deep voices ready to call upon the spirits of the waves. The priestesses knelt before these altars, their hands resting on the cool stone. They whispered prayers not in loud voices, but in quiet murmurs, like the undertow beneath the sea. They asked for guidance, for protection, for peace. They believed that every ripple carried their words far across the ocean, to the spirits who swam in its depths. Stories spoke of great sea goddesses, mothers of waves and tides. Some were said to ride dolphins, their hair streaming like kelp in the water. Others wore crowns of coral and pearls, their laughter rolling like surf. The priestesses told these stories by firelight, weaving myth with prayer. The children drifted asleep to these tales, the sound of waves mingling with dreams of radiant women who ruled the deep. In these stories, the goddesses were not far away. They were close, present in every tide that kissed the shore, in every storm that shook the trees. To honor them was to honor the sea itself. The priestesses also guided the cycles of life. When a child was born, the first water to touch them was seawater, carried in bowls by the women of the tides. They dipped their fingers, brushed the salt water across the baby's brow, and whispered blessings for strength and flow. The child, they said, now belonged not only to the land, but also to the ocean. When someone passed into death, the body was wrapped in woven mats. The priestesses stood at the shore, singing as the tides pulled outward. They believed the ocean carried the soul beyond the horizon, where ancestors waited in lands unseen. Their voices were steady, never hurried, guiding the spirit like a lantern guiding a ship in the night. When storms gathered, heavy clouds rolling like mountains across the sky, the people turned again to the priestesses. They lit fires along the shore, the flames flickering against the rising wind. The women stood at the water's edge, unafraid, their arms lifted, shells raised, voices strong yet calm. They sang to the storm, not to banish it, but to remind it of balance, of mercy. Some storms passed quickly, their fury softened. Others still struck, yet the people believed the priestesses lessened their strength, holding back the waves that might have swallowed the land. Through every storm, their presence was the anchor, steady, grounded, unshaken by the roar of the sea. The moon was their companion. They watched it rise, thin and sharp, then round and full, then fade again. Its pull guided the tides, and with it, the rhythms of planting, of fishing, of rest. The priestesses lifted bowls of water beneath its light, watching the silver reflection tremble with each breath of wind. To them, the moon was both mother and mirror, showing the cycles of change that all life must follow. When the moon was full, they gathered by the shore. They sang in unison, their voices like waves overlapping. Candles floated on the water, drifting slowly out to sea, tiny flames cradled in shells. The sight was tender, a reminder that even the smallest light could find its way upon vast waters. The ocean priestesses were not rulers of the sea, nor did they command it. They were its listeners, its dancers, its daughters. They understood that to live was to move with the tide, to rise and fall, to ebb and flow, to let go and to return. Their wisdom was patience. Their power was gentleness. Their strength was in surrender to the greater rhythm. Even now, as you drift beneath the quiet sky, you can almost hear them. The whisper of waves is their prayer. The hush of wind through palms is their song. The glow of moonlight on the water is their dance. They are still here, watching, guiding, reminding. The night deepens. The sea turns darker, folding stars into its surface. The tide moves in and out, steady, endless, soft as breath. The priestesses stand in memory, their robes shimmering with salt and moonlight. Their voices fade into the hush of the ocean, carrying peace across the water. Let your mind drift with the tide. Let your breath follow its rhythm. In, out, like the waves upon the sand, like the heart beating in the stillness of night. Now rest as the stars return. Now drift onward, carried by the sea. Now close your eyes as the ocean priestesses sing you into dreams. The night has grown deep. The stars rest in silence, scattered across the dark sky like glowing seeds of memory. A soft wind moves, gentle as a sigh, carrying the fragrance of earth and the hush of faraway seas. Candles flicker in the mind's temple, steady, warm, and calm. It is here, in this quiet hour, that the story of the eternal feminine flame begins to unfold. Across centuries and across lands, women have carried light. Some tended sacred fires upon stone altars. Some sang beneath the moon, their voices echoing like waves. Some walked among lotus ponds, offering flowers to the divine. Others danced in circles, calling forth the guidance of spirits and ancestors. Each was different, yet each flame was the same. A flame of devotion, a flame of patience, a flame of tenderness, holding strength hidden within its quiet glow. Imagine the first spark. In the high mountains of Persia, the guardians of fire knelt before their altars. The flames danced, fed with careful hands, never allowed to fade. To them each spark was a soul, each ember a journey, endless, timeless. Their breath was soft upon the coals, their eyes steady, knowing that life itself was reflected in that glow. Now, let the vision drift across the rivers of India. There, women carried songs for goddesses with many forms. Lakshmi, Saraswati, Durga. They moved as if lotus petals beneath the wind. Their prayers poured like rivers, gentle and ceaseless, carrying wisdom and hope. The flame glowed in their devotion, alive in chants, alive in the bells of the temple. From there, the light traveled farther, to the wide lands of Africa. In the heart of savannas, among forests where drums called to the spirits, women served as bridges. They became guides of song and dance, their movements spiraling like smoke rising from sacred fire. They held the wisdom of ancestors, weaving harmony with each step, each rhythm. The flame lived in their song, glowing in the heartbeat of the earth, and in China. Under skies where silk robes brushed temple floors, women honored as heavenly mothers guided kings and dynasties. They balanced the patterns of Tao, walking the path between earth and sky. Their wisdom was like a flame steady in the wind, never consumed, never lost. It glowed in prayers for balance, in quiet offerings of incense, in the turning of seasons. The islands, too, carried their share of light. Ocean priestesses walked along shores where waves kissed the land. They raised shells, sang songs, and laid flowers upon the tide. Their flame was the sea itself, eternal, restless, but always returning. It glowed in moonlit waters, in storms calmed by song, in the hush of tides rocking the world to rest. All these flames, scattered across the world, were never separate. They were threads of one great fire, woven together across time. One priestess tended coals upon a mountain, another sang to waves upon a shore, another prayed beside lotus ponds, while another danced in the forest's drumbeat. Each one was part of the same eternal flame, a flame that whispered, "Life is sacred. Love is strong. Peace is endless." Close your eyes and see the flame as it gathers. It begins as a spark, a single point of light. Then it grows, not wild but steady, like a lantern in the dark. It spreads across lands, across oceans, carried from hand to hand, heart to heart. Not burning, not consuming, only warming, only glowing. This is the eternal feminine flame. It does not rise with noise. It does not fall with time. It rests, soft and patient, in the quiet of night. It waits in temples, in forests, in homes, in hearts. It is the flame that guides through storms. It is the flame that comforts in sorrow. It is the flame that reminds the soul of peace. The stories tell us this: when the world grows heavy, the flame does not vanish. It hides in the smallest gestures, in the cup of water placed in a thirsty hand, in the lullaby sung to a restless child, in the prayer whispered with no audience but the night. When the stars are hidden by clouds, the flame remains. It glows in silence. It glows in patience. It glows in love that asks for nothing in return. It belongs to the quiet women who carry care in their daily lives. And it will belong to those yet to come who will take up the song, the dance, the prayer. Think of it as a candle carried down an endless line of hands. No hand keeps it forever. No flame stands alone. Each woman holds it for a while, adds her light, then passes it onward. The flame does not weaken. It only grows brighter and brighter until it lights the path for all. Listen now to its voice. It does not shout. It does not command. It only whispers, "Be gentle, be steady, be kind." This is the eternal song of the feminine flame, a song that lulls the heart, a song that guides the spirit, a song that carries peace like a tide, rising and falling, steady and sure. Now, as the night deepens, let yourself rest near its glow. The flame flickers softly, like a star brought close. It warms without burning. It lights without blinding. It is the fire of mothers and daughters, priestesses and singers, dancers and dreamers. It is the light of those who lived before, and the light of those who will come after. Breathe in, slow and deep, as though drawing the glow into your chest. Breathe out, slow and gentle, as though offering it back to the night. In, out, like the tide, like the flame, like the endless rhythm of the universe. The eternal feminine flame is here, in the quiet. It surrounds you, comforts you, protects you. It has no end, no edge, no loss, only flow, only peace, only the gentle promise that light will always remain. So now, rest in its glow. Let the stories of priestesses and goddesses settle into silence. Let their songs and dances linger only as soft echoes. Let their flames become one with your breath, steady, calm, unbroken. The night is long, but the flame is endless. The stars will fade, but the flame will remain. The winds will shift, but the flame will endure. It is the quiet companion. It is the eternal guide. It is the gentle light that will never leave. Let us drift onward, carried by its glow. Now rest as the stars return. Now sleep as the eternal feminine flame holds you in its warmth. Soft, unbroken, eternal,